The U.S. Supreme Court made history today, deciding that no state has the right to ban same-sex marriage. It's the culmination of a remarkable shift over the past decade in courtrooms, state capitals, public opinion, and in the media. Adam has more.
There was a time not too long ago when the press treated same-sex marriage as an issue with two sides.
Today is monumental for its history, and not everyone is happy about it.
This is a terrible idea.
But in recent years, that's changed big time, with many journalists becoming advocates rather than observers.
You would rather defend a prisoner's right to get married than you would Susie Orman's right to get married to her partner.
Some conservative journalists took an anti-gay marriage stance, like Boston Globe columnist Jeff Jacoby. But the majority swung the other way.
It's about discrimination.
It's about sexual preference.
It's about discrimination.
And along the way, same-sex marriage got some surprising allies.
The compelling argument is on the side of homosexuals.
So it's no surprise that some of the people covering today's U.S. Supreme Court ruling legalizing gay marriage took the outcome personally.
Frankly, it's hard to watch that and not get emotional.
And it's not just the media. In the past decade, support for same-sex marriage has skyrocketed. The million-dollar question is whether the press reflected that shift or helped make it happen.
So, Adam, what do you think? Did we influence this? I mean, it's true.
You know,
the label the liberal press, but we
probably helped to an extent. But I kind of buy the idea that the media is society's way of talking with itself. So I think it's sort of a cyclical process. You know, we're responsive to popular trends, we reflect them, and then we in turn sort of give them momentum. But I think that, you know, to give ourselves too much credit would, among other things, fail to credit the people who led
really
this fight strategically. Yeah, like
gay
and lesbian advocates and
as
defenders.
You pointed out, we stopped getting the other side. It was like global warming.
But you know, I would also just say, and I want to let you get in here, sometimes you don't really need to give the other side. Sometimes it's a one-sided issue. Yeah. And I know we'll get emails complaining about that, but I really believe that.
Actually, I think if you look at places like Texas, it hasn't been covered as one-sidedly as here. I think if you look at the Dallas Morning News, they had GOP criticism right in the headline. So, I mean, it's kind of expected that here in Massachusetts, we've had gay marriage, we're used to it. Like, it's kind of a settled issue here, but I don't think that's true in the rest of the country, and I think the media reflects that.
Yeah, I think that's true.
No, but I think Farrah's right, but certainly within the eastern liberal areas of the country, the argument against same-sex marriage kind of moved into the alien territory quite a while ago, and I think that it is seen as an issue with one side now, and I agree with Adam that the media has both led the argument and followed the argument. I think that it's kind of a dialect that's going on here, and you know, Adam and I were involved in some of the early coverage of this for the Boston Phoenix years ago. I think we did some really pioneering coverage of that. Neither one of us were the leaders of that coverage, I want to make it clear, but I was very proud to be part of that.
Well, I'm with Farrah on this. All you have to do is go to other parts of the country. I believe I have to always question myself when I get outside. I start talking to my relatives, other places, they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? You know, that's not what the rest of the world thinks at all. And that's reflected in their local media for absolutely sure. And I've had many discussions. I think what happened, and if you follow the trajectory, look at what happened when in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that first same-sex marriage happened. You had a lot of discussion from people saying, well, I'm not sure. All right, but as time passed in our own area, then that changed here. So we reflected that. I don't think we led here at all. I actually don't. I think we reflected exactly what was happening in terms of the great shift. And as more states got into it, then the media said, hey, more states are into it. And they started bringing forth other arguments for it, which is why then you end up with a Bill O'Reilly who would not seem to be, given his other stances, someone who would support.
And by the way, he said the context in that quote, I think he was saying that it should be decided by states, but he shifted his position and became more liberal. I just want to say that when we talk about not overgeneralizing about the country, I think it's also important to recognize that it isn't just a coastal phenomenon. Like, my mother spent a lot of time volunteering when they were voting on this in Minnesota, where it won a big victory. Ireland recently,
Yes.
you know, of all the places that you would think would not vote to legalize same-sex marriage, they won there. So geographically, there's a lot of diversity, and ideologically, too. A lot fewer Republicans back same-sex marriage than Democrats, but the number has doubled in the last 10 years. So
It's
so
been so
it's
quick.
not the same everywhere, but it's a
I just,
big change.
I guess I think as big as the story is today, nationwide, it's not that big here, because we
Well-
did lead the way, and it's been
And the shift happened
the
here, so-
practice
so
since
early.
2004.
Yeah, so
And,
It's
and
11
the
years
biggest,
already.
The biggest
Yeah.
remaining shift is, you're right, it's not ideological, it's not geographic, it's older, younger. And so, you know, tide is on the side of it becoming more and more accepted.